Hello everybody, hope you're having a wonderful day today. And this is lesson number 37 in our dive into the wonderful world of music theory. So in this lesson, we're going to start a new section of videos. We're going to be going a bit more into rhythm. Just like we went a bit more into pitch, talking about major and minor scales and key signature, we also went quite a bit more. Now we're going to go quite a bit more into rhythm. Talk about so many different kinds of notes that are there, and how to collapse them out and how that works. Then after this, we're also going to articulations and tempo and some other things associated with that, so we get a much better understanding of music in general. That being said, today the topic I want to introduce is dotted notes. So far we've learned about the whole note, we've learned about the half note, we've learned about the quarter note, we've learned about the eighth note, we've learned about the 16th note, and yeah, that's about it. That's what we've learned, right? Now you can write some pretty cool music with this, but it can get boring at times just because each one of these is so neatly, evenly divided, right? So these are not the only notes that exist, and there are a couple of others. One of those are dotted notes, and dotted notes can make music a whole lot more interesting. And I'll explain how. So dotted notes are what they sound like. It's when you have a note. Let's take a quarter note for now, crochet if you prefer that language, important, and you put a small dot next to it. So this is automatically now a dotted crochet. And what that dotted crochet is now, suddenly, is that it is now not worth the value of a quarter note plus half the value of a quarter note. That's what dot does. It makes a note longer, and how much longer? That note value plus the value of half that note value. So a dotted quarter note will be equal to a regular quarter note plus an eighth note, because an eighth note is half a quarter note. Now if you want a concrete note value, just like we have for everything else, this note value will be 3/8, but then that gets too complicated and no one goes that far into math, so I don't encourage you to look at the note value at this point at all. Just remember that it is the same as a quarter note plus the eighth note. So together, when you put this together, the total note value is the same as a dotted crochet. That's what, so a dot, whenever you put in front of a note, add that note value and half of that note's value. So we look at maybe a half note this time. And dotted all notes exist. You can dot all notes. And you add a small dot next to it. And now suddenly this half note, this dotted half note, is worth a value of a half note plus the value of a half of the half note, which is going to be a quarter note. So it's basically 1.5 times the value of a half. So for example, when you put a dot, what you're doing is adding half the value of the note to it, essentially. Adding half the value of the note to it. Perhaps more examples will be more beneficial. And as I said, this is applicable to all sorts of notes. So let me draw another note here. Next note, for a dot next to it, and suddenly this is worth an eighth note plus a. I wanted to pause the video and think about it. And I'm thinking we've done that, and the answer is a 16th note. So eighth note plus 16th note makes a dotted eighth note. And it's not that you're playing each one individually. It's you have hold that particular sound for the value of both an eighth note and a 16th note. For both the value. And you can even do this for 16th notes, but then you'd need a note we haven't learned yet. You can also do this for a dotted whole note. You don't see this coming up too much in the world of music. And as you might imagine, I encourage you to pause the video and try this yourself. It's a whole note plus a half note. Same logic. And these are the really four. These are the really three ones which you really have to worry about. A dotted eighth note, a dotted a dotted half note, and a dotted um, quarter note. These are the three ones which usually come into music. A dotted whole note you won't see all that much unless you're dealing with much larger time signatures, And order 16th note you also won't see that much unless you're dealing with very small note values. So these are the really main three ones which you see as what I've mentioned dotted corner note as well. And the why do we make music much more interesting? Well, perhaps I'll demonstrate just a bit. We'll learn how to clap these out in subsequent lessons. But let me write a rhythm using a dotted crochet ones. And remember, when writing in 4/4 or 2/4 or whatever time signature, right? The thing to keep in mind is that this is what the value of our quarter note plus an eighth note. So this total value is that of a quarter note plus an eighth note. So if I have, and remember, the total value within a bar must be the same as four quarter notes in a 4/4 time signature. If they have music written like this. I want you to pause the video and tell me if this works. Is this plausible in a 4/4 time signature? And I'm assuming you've done that, and the answer is yes. Because if I look at this as eighth notes and quarter notes, then it makes sense. So I've got one quarter note, then you compound the eighth notes and it's one more quarter note, and you take one quarter note and you take the eighth notes and one more quarter note. Or if you want to take this value as 3/8, if you really felt like it, you could, and you'd realize it amounts to the same. So yes, this works. And it's best to gain an intuition for it. I don't encourage you taking its value to be 3/8 and doing the math. That's not a good way to go. Here where you want to sort of veer off from math and move more towards intuition, because musicians are doing math in their head all the time. And yeah, so remember, it's just the value of a quarter note and an eighth note. So how would I cap out this rhythm? Remember, this is 4 counts per bar, right? And this is 4 counts per bar, and because the bottom number is 4 in that case, a quarter note is equal to 1 count, and a half note is equal to 2 counts, and so on and so forth. So under a 4/4 time signature, or under any time signature as 4 in the denominator, this is going to be worth as many counts as a quarter note plus a eighth note would be, right? But in this case, okay, in this case is going to be equal to, so you'll have to excuse me, in this case it's going to be equal to, I want you to pause the video and try to figure it out. Assuming you've done that, it's going to be equal to 1.5 counts, 1.5 counts. So I'm sustaining it for a quarter note duration 1 and a eighth note duration, which is half, so 1/2 total counts. So now let me count this out, and because the decimals I use 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you'll also learn when the dotted notes, dotted crochets and stuff, it's also best to use that system. And I'll show you what they sound like. Okay, so remember, it's meant to be held for 1.5 counts, and I'll show you what that means. Okay, ready? So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and once again 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and once again 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and once again without me counting, once again. And as you might imagine, just from this example, you can get incredibly creative with these. In fact, lots of music have these. That's why I've been struggling to find some good case studies to teach. But lots of music have these. And yeah. So what I'm doing in this case is I'm sustaining this for 1 and 2, exactly those three. Why? Because this is worth half a count. This is worth half a count. This is worth half a count. So half plus half is equal to 1.5. Right? That's why or you can just keep in mind that um that this is what a quarter note's worth and this is an eighth note's worth. So just put them together, and that's how you count it out. That's how you count it out. Don't worry, we'll be going further into detail with this next lesson. But I just want to show that this is da 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 da. Right? You can do so much with this with these notes, which is quite, these are really extend your capabilities in music, and you'll see why in the following lessons. With that being said, I just wanted to introduce the concept of dotted notes today, and hopefully I've successfully done that. Hope you found this lesson informative and it's relatively enjoyable, and wishing you an amazing rest of the day. Have a nice day and see you next lesson.